Good evening, everybody. I hope you've had a fantastic Tuesday today. My name is Sensei Bronson Long. This is my instructor, Master Autry. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
Good.
Thank you so much. Welcome back to Honest Concepts Podcast, where two martial artists get together and we talk more than just our walk together through martial arts, but more importantly, our walk through life. So today was a lovely day. We had some beautiful sunshine today.
It was absolutely beautiful.
The shade is cool, but the sun is warm. That's my favorite weather. When you get some North Carolina days with no humidity, that's a good day.
That's a great day.
A big blessing. So you texted me, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago and said it was your turn to come up with a topic for today's show. Mm-hmm. And you said it had something to do with working with different personalities. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to go ahead and just let you go for it and see what's going on.
It's a little bit different, right?
Yes, sir.
You know, what got me thinking about this, guys, I've been doing teaching for a long time. And the biggest thing for me when I was young, people would come in with different personalities, and I didn't know how to handle it. I really didn't. I sat there, and sometimes they were strong, sometimes they were weak, and I was just like always trying to balance it. So one day, I was thinking, there's got to be a way I can connect with them. If you can find something in common with them, you can connect. Mm. This lady came in. I was in Matthew school. She was about 30 years old, 35 years old. She had a little son with her. He was probably 6 or 7. I was there by myself in the dojo. And she walked in. Her personality was real shy, kind of scaredish, kind of just really withdrawn. You could tell she was scared to walk in. So when she walked in, I said, okay, I said, how you doing? I introduced myself. She was very, very timid. Mm. So that's a personality trait right there. So I said, I got to do something to relax her. I said, ma'am, if you don't mind, let me open up this dock door and open up all the doors in the warehouse. And so right off the bat, that made her feel better.
Wow.
Because I didn't want her to come in the dark dojo, excuse me, come in there, here I'm sitting there, go in the office, shut the door. The door was open, the other door was open, the big dock door was open. When I did that, it changed. We had a connection.
Really?
It totally changed. It doesn't work all the time, but she was relaxed, I was relaxed. And she came back a week later, signed up, and stayed there for many years.
Really?
True story.
Wow. Yeah. Ain't that something?
Yeah. So, it's not always about a power, situation or somebody's got a personality. I was at the last school we were at. I was there. And, the kids come in, excuse me, with the parents. This another lady brought her kid in. And I told them about the school. She said, thank you. She was kind of a strong-willed woman, if you will, very opinionated. Mm. So she was nice. And I said, well, come up in the back, and then I'll let you walk around the dojo. The little kid, I told the mom, come out there, walk over the door, went in the back. I told the little boy, I said, if you will, take your shoes off and put them in the cubby hole. Okay, took his shoes off, put them in there. I said, now we can walk out on the floor. She said, wait a minute. Just like that. And I was like, okay. She said, I forget the kid's name. Let's call him Tommy. Tommy, go get your shoes. I'm going to hold them. And I'm thinking, we've already put them in the cubby hole. Very dominant. I said, ma'am, we've already got him in there. We're just going to go out there. She says, I'm going to hold his shoes. I don't want him in that cubby hole. I said, well, that's kind of a rule. This is part of training and stuff. He's already got him in there. She said, Tommy, go get your shoes, and I'm going to hold them. And she looked at me and she did that.
Wow.
I said, okay. I said, well, you know what? I tell you what. If that's the way it's going to be, I just want to tell you thank you and have a great day. And sometimes you do have to stand for something like that, because what's going to happen is, if she did that when there's nobody there in front of me, all the other kids are like, wow, I got to put my shoes there. Mm-hmm. So gain 1 student, lose 3. Sometimes you have to draw the line. Right. So that's what I did.
Wow.
That was a stronger personality that I took care of.
Right.
I didn't want to do it that way, but I wasn't going to let her tell me what to do in my school.
Of course.
And the kid, he was a cooler kid. He'd already put him in there. He was excited about walking on the floor, about walking out on the floor. But she had no part of it. Wow. I'm going to hold those shoes, she told me. Mm-hmm.
You can hold him out the door.
Hold him away. I don't mean to be sarcastic about that, because that's important,
Yes, sir.
But it is funny how people are. And you wonder what kind of home life he has, because she's in control of everything. Strong personality, very strong.
Right. Wow. I can only imagine what that's like, dealing with something like that. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to set up a structure for the student. You know, you're trying to get them. You may be familiar with the video. It's I believe it's a retired veteran who comes out and he says, small tasks. You know, you wake up, you make your bed, and you know that video.
I love that. I think it's
I love it too.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're doing with the kids.
Exactly.
It's a lot. I mean, a lot. I believe your junior classes, by the time I made it into your school, were an hour long.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot for a kid.
It is.
You know, it's different when they're 10, 11, 12 years old. An hour is not so bad.
Right.
You're talking about a young adolescent. An hour, keeping them attentive and moving, it takes time to build up that type of structure to where a kid can really get into an environment where they're plugged into it and they can start learning. And it starts off with the small things like putting your shoes where they need to go all the time. And really, you're teaching home lessons too. I used to lose my shoes more than anything else. And my mom had 5 kids, and it was always a battle on whose shoes
What
were
do you want for
where.
Christmas? I'll take a pair of shoes, Mom.
I need a pager for my shoes, because I'd lose them all the time. And that structure is so important. And it starts with just little things like that. And it's all designed to help the student grow and to become, a working civilian who's going to, be able to be productive in society, as well as a martial artist who's going to do well and fit into the school. It's sad that somebody would, I'm sure she had her reasons, but that's an odd thing. Different personality, I guess.
Yeah, it was. Most of the time you don't run across stuff like that. Most of the time you don't. But I had this gentleman. He came in with this, I think he was 6 or 7 years old, his son. Pardon me. He came in the school you were at. He came in and he said, my son wants to think about taking martial arts. Okay, I'll take him on the floor, work out with him 5 minutes. He bowed, walked down the floor. It was great. He said, can we come back for another one of these? Be sure he likes it. I said, absolutely. So he came back, and about 3 days later, the little kid bowed, walked right on the floor. And I said, that's wonderful. So now he wants to come to class, try a class. I said, yeah, you can get a free class. So his mom brings him in. I've never seen his mom. And he was just controlling his mom right and left. He was like, no, I ain't doing that. He was just a different kid.
Wow.
So we got to the floor to bow, to come on the floor. He said, I don't want to bow. I don't want to bow. She said, well, you don't have to. I said, yeah, you need to bow before you come out. Same thing with the shoes. I said, you need to. And now, if that had been his first time,
Sure.
I'd probably let it slide. But he's already done it twice.
I've seen him do it.
And he's already done it. He knows the rules.
Right.
But it's different because his mom's there. And she said, you don't have to bow. And I was like, oh, the parents sitting there and stuff. And I said, well, to come out on this floor, he has to bow. You telling me? I said, exactly what I'm not really telling you. I'm asking you real nicely. He needs to bow. I'm just kind of telling you. So anyway, she sat there, and his kids just start screaming and crying.
Wow.
And so I said, well, when he calms down, he bows, he comes out on the floor. He's already done it twice. Nobody knew it but me.
Right.
And one of the assistant instructors, you know who he is, I'll tell you after this. He walked over to me and said, Master Archie said, would you like me to see if I can talk to that little kid? I said, sure, go ahead. But he bows before he comes out on the floor. He said, oh, yes, sir, okay. And I'm sure he was thinking, wow, what's the big deal about bowing? But he didn't know. He wouldn't question me.
Sure.
So anyway, 5 minutes later, they walk out the door and they leave. And so after class, I told him what happened. He said, oh, I didn't know that. I said, yeah. But it's just like some people want control, and that's just what they want.
Right.
And the sad part about it is they're missing out.
Right.
They are really missing out. What I try to do is, most of the time I try to find, like I said, something in common with them. Mm-hmm. You can talk to them a little bit. Because everybody has different personalities. I do, you do.
Sure.
Actually, I was a lot.
Yes, sir. Right.
I don't know if that's good or bad. But the thing is, it's just, some people are just so bitter. And got a hard personality. And you wonder what their home life's like.
Right.
If it's that way. So that's what you deal with.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure you'll be dealing with it a lot.
No, I imagine so. It's hard to find common ground and relate to someone who is, stiff. It's like a wall,
Right.
It's how can I describe it? It's like puzzle pieces that don't have any pieces that fit together. You got 2 flat pieces and you're trying to make something work. They don't really connect. There's nothing that sticks there. That's so sad, especially because the kid had already done it twice. That's what's wild about it. Is,
Well, he can do it. That's what it was.
Sure,
He
yeah.
can do it, but his mom says, you don't have to.
Right.
Are you related to the other lady I just saw that I had 5 years ago?
Exactly. That's so sad. And I always wonder where that comes from. If it's just you always try to find something that you can relate to, right?
Right.
And in my youth, I was one to buck the system. And so I always wonder if it's just because they view it as just an arbitrary, meaningless rule. If they look at it as I'm submitting to someone, I don't know where that could come from. I thought it was cool. I saw people, I don't know. Granted, I was craving structure.
Right.
I wanted that in my life. So when I came into your school and I saw just how structured it was, I thought it was really, really cool. If I didn't have your school, I think the best thing that could have happened to me is if I would have gone to the military, something like that.
Sure.
But because of my experience, it's hard for me to understand where people come from like that. I don't get it. I'm not even trying to be rude or condescending. I just don't understand.
But it seemed like for me in our school, it seemed like we had more ladies that way than guys.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
More ladies. We had a few guys that, buck the system a little bit and stuff.
Right.
But a lot of ladies were that way.
Wow.
I don't know. I guess ladies, I don't know. I don't know why.
Yes, sir.
But I had a lot more ladies, kind of get upset, especially if I didn't let somebody test. If they were late for a test.
Oh, wow.
So,
interesting.
but if you're late for a test, you're not tested.
You're right. That's always
I've
been the
had
rule.
black belts come in. They're like, I was in a traffic jam, blah blah blah. And they know what not test. They just take the guitar, go sit down.
Yes, sir. Right. We know. We
Yeah.
know the rules. Yes, sir. That's so funny. That is so funny. There's a chat coming in from Michael. I'm gonna butcher your last name, and I apologize. Casiglia.
That'd be Pull Mike.
Okay, Pool Mike. All right, yeah. Change your username.
I can't pronounce that last name, Pull Mike. His last name Mike.
Do you think a dominant personality in business is a negative trait?
That is a great question. You want to go first? Or you want me to? Go ahead. You go
Let
first.
me hit this with a novice
Great question,
perspective.
Paul Mike.
Great question. Do you think a dominant personality in business is a negative trait? I think the answer is yes and no, personally. I think dominance is a good thing. Like how you did when the lady come in, she said, oh no, I'll take the shoes. In some cases, you have to say, hey, now look, these are the rules. Dominance is kind of a tricky word because we're not looking about, I'm not armoring up with a shield and a spear and going and conquering things. I'm just standing the ground here. But at the same time, you do need to stand your ground. At the same time, you can't be too standoffish. You can't be that puzzle piece that won't ever mix as a business owner or someone who wants to, make things work. You even said it yourself in the beginning of the episode. You often try to find a common ground. You're often trying not to be someone who's dominating, but someone who can connect and make relationships with people. That's my take on it.
Okay, Mike.
All right, here we go.
I agree. Yes and no, but I think it's more harmful than good.
Really?
If you're talking about dominance, trying to dominate everybody, I think it's a little bit strong because most people, not all of them, but most people, as soon as they see that, they buck up against it. Oh, you're not going to tell me, or I don't like that. And all these emotions run loose.
Right.
If you're not as dominant, and just be just a regular person, and explain how, why we do things, I think you'll get more sugar than you will anything
Wow,
else.
that
That's
makes
just
sense.
me.
Yeah.
Now, you can't have somebody boss man can't be run over.
Sure.
That's the difference. But as far as being dominant, because I've had a couple of part-time jobs, and I had one guy, he was very, very dominant, extremely dominant. And everybody just didn't like him.
No, nobody likes that.
Actually, he was good.
Sure.
He got things done, but nobody liked him. And then really, by that being that way, it was going on the backside. Things were sliding because they were trying to do things, sabotage him all the time.
Right.
Because they didn't like him.
Right.
That's my thought.
That's
But
funny.
a good question.
That is a great question. It's funny. I've had issues in my short 28 years of being on Earth. I've only been working for 12 years. I've got my first job at 15, 16 years old. But I've never really had an experience where I've seen someone who's in charge that has found the balance. I've worked for some bosses that were just sticklers. Just rude as can be type of dominance. There was no ifs, ands, or buts to anything, just stern as can be. Productivity was high. Things got done, but nobody liked her or him, whomever. And I've also, excuse me.
Excuse me, Benny. Whatever it was.
But there were other bosses I had that everyone loved the guy, but nothing could get done. It was sloppy. None of the work was done correctly. But he was a great guy. If you needed time off, he'd give it to you. Everything great to talk to, good personality, very understanding person, but efficiency was always low.
I worked for the place at a restaurant, not the Olive Garden, but a different one. It was more like a older folks' home, if you will, in Charlotte, but it had a nice restaurant in there for the old folks stuff.
Right, right.
And they had I guess the head chef was in there, and he was just horrible. I mean, he was just horrible. I mean, he was yell those little 16-year-old kids, scream at him, and you talking about dominant, and they were like, "What do we do? What do we do?" I was like, "I don't put earmuffs on. I don't know what to tell you to do." And if you want the job, he's your boss. You got to deal with it. But what it was, he was a medium-sized fish in a small pond.
Right.
And he had just a few people who worked there. Only like 8 people worked there, and he was just screaming at everybody, and everybody hated him, And he got caught, taking some food out the back door, and next thing you know, he was gone. Guy came in, just the nicest guy in the world. I mean, great chef. Actually, the food was better, and what a wonderful chef he was. And man, everybody was just happy. Everybody was happy. They come in smiling and hey, how you doing and stuff. So it makes a difference.
It does.
I think so.
I think you're 100%. Yeah, that's a great question. That's just a fun topic to be on. Really fun topic to be on. I think in regards to your first story, I really like that story about the person who's kind of reserved. What's the word you used? Withdrawn. She was withdrawn and came in and opening up those doors for someone who was so closed off. That kind of
made her feel safe.
Yes, yeah, that really blends in with the whole conversation we're just having about the chef and everything. Is that a lot of times I can't remember who it is I heard that uses this quote. My brain says Dave Ramsey, but I don't know who it was that said this quote. But it's along the lines of, if you just leave people alone and just let them do their thing, typically they do well. You just kind of run things when you need to, and then let other people run it, do the best way they know how.
I'll bet you 90% of the people that are out there working and really want a good job or want the job, they'll do their job. Now, if something needs to be said or done, you can do it. You can do it that way. But I mean, just let them go for the most part, and they'll do their job.
Right.
There's always one or two.
Sure.
No matter where you're at.
Yeah, right. There's no avoiding that. No way. I think you're 100% right on that. And you did that in your school all the time. Is it your assistant instructors? By the time I showed up to your school, you had maybe 4 or 5 assistant instructors. There's quite a bit of them in there. It was a pretty big school.
One time we had 6.
Okay, they may have been 6 then.
We had 6 at one time.
Right.
But we had over 120 students.
Right.
A lot of people.
You need at least 6 assistant instructors.
A lot of people to keep up with it.
But what you did was you would teach, and then a lot of times you would just step off. You've told me this 1,000 times. Sir, when you're teaching, speaking as you, sir, when you're teaching, less is more, less is more. Nobody wants to come out there and hear you talk and, and spurt your mouth for you. I believe we had everybody in your school teaching. You had a teaching school, and you had told us, guys, get it out in 30 seconds. Come out and tell it in 30 seconds, and then get out the way and let the students work.
30-second rule. I never stay out there teaching more than 30 seconds, and I get off to another technique.
Yes, sir.
I had a buddy of mine. I guess it's okay to tell this. I had a buddy of mine. I won't say who he is, and you don't know him.
Okay.
So anyway, he was just, when I first opened my school, he was just arrogant. Nice guy, decent martial artist, just arrogant. I'd go to school sometimes, and he would be out there for one technique for 20 minutes.
Wow.
I'm telling you, 15, 20 minutes just talking about how great it was. And look at me do that. And then they just stopped going to school.
I believe it.
They started coming to my school. I'm not bragging, that's true. They started coming to my school, and they're like, man, but people get tired of that.
Right.
They're not there for that. They're there to learn.
Right.
And have a good time.
Yeah. They're there to train.
I think I've told you.
Yes, sir. I believe you have. Yeah. No, they're there to train. They're not there for a lecture.
Right.
A
seminar is a seminar, but not every night.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And those moments were special too. And there was maybe 15, 20 times in the 12, 13 years I've been training with you, where we'd start a class, you'd bow us all out and say, okay, guys, go ahead and everybody take a seat. We're going to talk about something. And because it didn't happen super often, it was always like, oh, he's going to talk to us about something. It became something special. But more often than not, you'd get out there and just do what you had to do. And I believe, at least for me, and I know dozens of other students, it was a very good learning environment where we could put our hands to it. And it's not like you taught for 5 seconds and then walked away and didn't help anybody.
Right.
There was assistant instructors, and you yourself would walk around and come, adjust somebody's elbow or whatever they were doing. So it's not like you left people out to dry, but at the same time, you gave them room to grow on their own. And then you'd come by and make adjustments when necessary. I think that's pretty good leadership.
Yeah, I hope it was. And you do the same thing.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you do the same thing. Just watching those 2 or 3 last time we had a test at your students, we test your students. I mean, 2 or 3 of them what a difference.
Yes, sir.
I mean, honestly, what a difference. Just crazy.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's change wheels a little bit.
Okay.
You ready?
Sure. Let's do it.
Your first experience after you started working about how people were that you worked with. What you remember people you worked with in the beginning?
My current job, or when I first got employed, like as a teenager?
Either one.
Okay, and the question is,
There's a point of this.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And
everybody's
so,
thinking, what's he doing? I don't know, guys.
And the question is, do I remember what they were like?
Yeah,
Oh,
as a whole.
vividly.
What's your take on it?
The majority of the people I worked with, they were good people. At face value, I don't know what they did in their home life or what they did in the closet, but what they did at the workplace, they seemed like great people.
Yeah.
There's always 1 or 2 bad apples, and it takes about 5 seconds to figure that out.
Right.
And then those people just remain bad apples. They're jerks, they're rude, blunt and condescending. But for the most part, everything's a little nicer when you first show up.
Sure.
But for the most part, everyone there was hard-working American. They just did their thing.
Yeah. My first job we talked about was a grocery store.
Right.
But let's say a little bit later in life than that. Sorry, guys, still got those allergies. The thing is, maybe my 3rd or 4th job, as I started getting into people, that's when I started noticing people. And I started noticing the personalities. And most of the time, everybody might disagree, I'm not a psychologist, guys, by no means. No means. But most of the time, you're drawn to people with a different personality than yours.
That's true.
I was.
That's true.
I don't know why. I can't explain it. Maybe the psychologist can say, hey, man, you're nuts. I don't know. But I was drawn to, buddies and all, that had different personalities.
Yes.
I looked at 3 of my friends I had, my 2nd, 3rd job that I had, and we became pretty good friends. And all 3 of us had just totally different personalities. I'm thinking, that's strange. I just want to know if you ever.
I certainly have, yeah. Yes, absolutely.
That's why I asked that question.
That's a really
Why do you
interesting.
think that is?
All I can speak is for myself. And so there's 2 types of people in my life that I have found myself magnified to, if you will, drawn to, I guess is a better word for that. One is they have some type of trait that I aspired to emulate.
Okay.
And that was usually a person of leadership, someone older than me, something like that. The other things are, I'll tell you what, there's somebody, I got to be dark about the way I say this, but there's 2 people I know of.
Turn the volume down.
Yeah, right. There's 2 people I know of that, the saying I always heard about them was that they are so alike that they hate each other, And I'd heard this person say it their whole life, is that those 2 are just so alike, they just can't get along.
And you would think it'd be the opposite.
You'd think it'd be the opposite.
Best buddies, twins.
But I've had experiences like this in my life too, where I've met people, and I've even had some people say, "Oh, have you met Kyle or whatever? You met Kyle?" I said, "No, I haven't met Kyle." They're, "Oh, you guys would get along so good, Boom, 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 boom." Yeah, I can't stand Kyle. Why'd you think I like him? I guess we're so alike that it's like 2 north sides of a magnet. They just repel each other.
I guess. But yeah, like I said, there's 3 buddies of mine. We just sat there and we were totally different.
Really?
Totally different. Best friends for years. Until they moved away and stuff.
Yes, sir. Why do you think that happens? Why do you think you're drawn to?
It's almost like, I don't know how to say it other than this, almost like a food that you never ate. I've never had the spaghetti that way. I've never had a hamburger this way. That's pretty good. It's
right, yeah.
I've never had grits cooked this way.
True.
That's down south stuff.
Right.
But I've never had that, so they give you perspective of things you never thought about. Oh man, I never thought of that.
Good point.
Yeah, I like you, Kyle.
Good point. That's
Well, that's
interesting.
something I can think of.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's true. Because I have learned a lot from people that are different than me. It's they do bring things to the table that you wouldn't have brought, you wouldn't have thought to bring. So that's a good point. Maybe that is what it is. You can glean from them. That's very true. It's funny the things you learn from people who are not. I mean, we're in North Carolina, and so this is kind of like a melting pot,
Right.
especially in the last 10 years or so.
Exactly.
There's so many people that live here now that weren't born and raised here. And I was born and raised here. I know you were born and raised here. And a lot of that stuff kind of runs through. We do things similar. We eat similar types of foods. We talk a little similar, use same words. Then other people come through and they know things or have experienced things that you just haven't before. They can tell you things that you didn't know, or and you can glean from that. There's growth there,
Me and Ms. Autry, when we got married, long time ago, that's 46 years ago, and when she was born in Virginia, when she moved here and we got married, I think there was 95,000 people in Charlotte.
Wow.
95,000 people. Now there's over 2 million.
Wow.
95.
Jeez
95,000.
Louise.
If I'm not, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that number's in my mind. It
Wow.
might have been 110, but it's right around 100,000.
That is
Now
crazy.
there's 2 million.
Wow. It grows. I mean, it grows like nobody's business through here. Pool Mike says, let me read that. This here says, I messed up big time at my first job and my boss stood behind me. I used his mentoring style for the rest of my working life.
Read that again, please.
Sure. Yeah. He says, I messed up big time at my first job and my boss stood behind me. I used his mentoring style for the rest of my working life.
My first guess would be he respected his work,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why he stood behind him, even though he messed up.
Right.
He appreciated what he did, and I know for a fact he's a good guy. So I'm sure his boss saw that too. So he's like, you know what, we all mess up.
Mm-hmm.
You've messed up on the floor before.
Sure.
I didn't go back and say, hey, absolutely good job.
Right.
Do this. But
Yes,
I
sir.
wouldn't do that.
Right.
What do you think?
Oh, I think you're spot on. And there's I always hear you tell really cool stories about your dad, and I think about those stories often actually, and then I can't wait till my kids get of age to where I can start trying to help them out the best I can. I can't wait to kind of tell some stories and stuff. It happened to me on 2 different occasions. One time I was in the 4th grade, and one time I was in the 6th grade. And I had done something wrong. Who knows what I was doing. The story in 6th grade in particular, so I'm maybe around 12 years old or so. The whole class is going bananas. Yeah, everybody's just acting like a bunch of wild monkeys in the class and going wild. And because I guess the teacher had stepped out of the room. Well, she comes back in, and we're still acting very unhinged. So she gets real loud. Hey, everybody, stop it. Calm down. And class gets real quiet. She goes, if you were talking just now, raise your hand. Because we were doing a lot. We weren't just talking. We were partying there. We were throwing stuff around, just being, rambunctious. She said, if you were talking just now, raise your hand. I raised my hand. And nobody else in the room raised their hand. Not a single person raised their hand.
It's called singling somebody out right there. You singled yourself out.
I figured at least somebody else would raise their hand. I raised my hand, and she said, you were talking. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course I was talking. The whole room was talking, But so I raised my hand, and she said,
I can't my voice carries.
she gave me 100. Everybody else got a 0 that day.
Really?
Dead serious. For being honest. Yeah, for being honest. And that has carried with me. It happened another time in 4th grade as well. I'll spare you guys the story. But it's 2 times in my life where I dropped the ball, goofed, and I told the truth about it. And I still, didn't do the right thing. But
Right.
in some ways, I was rewarded for at least telling the truth about it. That stuff has stuck with me for decades. And it's one of those things that I learned real quick that even if you mess up or even if you say something wrong, it just don't lie about it. Just tell the truth. Just be straight up.
You ain't got to remember what you said.
I didn't even got to remember what I said exactly.
Tell the truth all the
And
time.
I'm sure Pool Mike probably has a similar experience where, like you said, he did a good job. He was honest about his mess up, and your boss will stand by. People respect that. People like integrity.
We need to have Paul Mike sit on the couch every one day.
That's a great idea. That's a great
You
idea.
ever hold up some flashcards? Hold to us. I'm talking about that. I was in the ninth grade. Back then they called it junior high, not middle school. I was in the ninth grade, and so anyway, right across the back, where they had a little mobile home for units for math and stuff. They had a regular school, but they had a little extra mobile home stuff there. You did certain classes in. Right behind there, you cross the road and go to 7-Eleven. You're not supposed to.
Right.
So me and two of my buddies, it was like it was time to go to 7-Eleven.
Right.
So we got out of math. We had like a 5-10 minute break, so we darted across the street. We were over there getting Pepsi Cola, Snicker, whatever, bubble gum, whatever you get your kids. So we're sitting there, and we went to go out, and the door was locked. I'm like, the door's locked. We paid for it, everything. The door's locked. And the guy behind the counter said, yeah, I said, Mr. Carmichael will be here in a minute. That was our vice principal.
Oh, no.
He's a real tall guy. So here he comes across the parking lot. I was like, oh, man, this is not good. This is not good. And my dad's going to really get me for this. So he'd go there and he said, boys, I want you to be honest. Whose idea was this to come across the street? Well, it was kind of a game thing.
Right.
Well, nobody said anything. He said, well, since nobody wants to own up for it, I mean, how do you own up for an idea?
Right.
We all did it.
Right.
I couldn't really understand that. I still don't understand it. So nobody said nothing. He said, well, come on back and we're just going to give you 3 licks.
Oh, man.
Back then they passed.
Right. One for each of you.
Yeah. So each one of us got 3 licks, and that was it. But I was like, how do you answer that question? It wasn't my idea. It wasn't his. We just talking. Y'all candy? You want some candy? Let's go get
let's
candy.
go.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was, I don't know. I guess I should have said my idea. Maybe I just got it. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe.
But I never could understand that from you now.
That's kind of a tough one too. Yeah, it's not like you forced somebody to go over there. I think the funniest part about the story is the gas station clerk took your money and then told on you.
He locked the door.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's kidnapping.
He sold you a product and then sold you out. That's unbelievable.
It was 2 for that day.
That's
a true story.
hilarious.
Things were so different back then.
Yes, sir.
They really were. I mean, it was just fun, honest. It was good times.
Right.
It was hard, but it was good times.
That is so funny. Goodness gracious, that is hilarious. Wow. It's already past 8 o'clock. I can't believe that.
It's been 30 minutes?
Yeah, it's 8:02 right now.
Wow.
Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we head out of here, or anything you want to say?
Not really. Actually, I think I texted Pool Mike this morning, and somebody else too, a couple other guys I know. They have some ideas for some topics. Shoot them to us.
Sure. Yeah.
Everybody listening, shoot us some topics.
Right. I'd love to talk about stuff.
Me too.
Yeah, this is just a good time.
We just got there working out for an hour in the garage.
Right. Yeah, it's a good time having people hang out with you and talk and just share stories and stuff. It really is just our thoughts and opinions and just hanging out. Yeah, it is good.
And we'll end up talking, when we get through this, we'll end up talking 30 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just telling you in the garage right before we got started in here is this, I get to learn from this. Yeah. I get to get wisdom and hear people's stories and learn life things, and it's just as good for me as it is for anybody else out there.
That's really
good. Yeah, and community's so good. Yeah. It's good to have people get together.
So,
and we'll get together next Tuesday night. Sir, thank you so much. Pool Mike, I hope you have a great rest of your night. To anybody else viewing, all the lurkers out there, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Have a good night, guys.
Yes.
Thanks.